Good evening, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. I know it's Wednesday night, and I know that in 7 minutes from when I'm recording this, the new episode of Agatha comes along. Agatha All Along comes out. And I didn't know this would be happening this week, because usually I announce in advance when I'm going to one of these advanced screenings or something like that, and I didn't know this was happening until yesterday. And as soon as I found out, I was like, yes, let's jump in and do this. And let me just, for the full disclosure, when I saw it very quickly, I saw the poster, and I saw the name was Piece by Piece, and I very quickly was like, oh shit, that's awesome. Because I don't know why I made the association in my head. I was like, oh, that's the new movie for My Hero Academia. And I was like, alright, we'll do that. And then it's like, oh no, that's not what this is. I'd look it up piece by piece, what was that? And that was that's the documentary that's in the style of a Lego movie, by, with Pharrell Williams. And I'm gonna be honest, if you've listened to this show, you're familiar with me talking about, documentaries, because I talk about documentaries a lot. I do have a deep affection for documentaries. Teach me something new, show me something I don't know, and all of that. I'm all for that every opportunity. And one of the things we've seen recently is a lot of documentaries about people's lives. Like the biographical documentary is something that we get a lot of, especially as more people who grew, and it's more people that I know, because it's as more people who, more people who are around my age are getting into filmmaking, they're making documentaries about people that I'm familiar with. So we had Judy Bloom Forever, we had Reggie, we had, we talked about a bunch of them over the last year. And one of my big complaints with a lot of them is not really a complaint per se. I mean, to say it's a complaint feels dismissive. What I mean is, a lot of them are just kind of, not paint by numbers, but here's the party line version of this person's life. Here is what this person wants you to know, because by and large, they're involved in some way. The thing with a lot of them is you end up with this kind of weird place where it's we're not going to delve too deeply or make them look bad or anything like that. And then we get Piece by Piece, which I'm not saying it makes Pharrell Williams look bad. Pharrell Williams, the acclaimed music producer. The thing that I think that this documentary does, it displays a vulnerability that I don't think we really see that much. And the other thing that it does is it is a optimistic, uplifting story by and large. Smart move by the guy in front of me for not putting his directional on until we are ready until the light turns green, because he would have gotten honked at by the guy behind me. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's it is the story of a guy who worked hard, lifted himself out of poverty, and at the end he goes back to the the apartments they lived in. This is where I grew up. And it hits me so, and people around here weren't given the same chance that I was. They were just as talented. It's this great moment of introspection by him as that happens, and I think presenting it as a Lego movie and keeping it PG, despite it being about what it is, which is this guy who produced a lot of music for a lot of hip hop, a lot of rap, and a lot of harder pop music, especially in the mid 2000s. The way they integrate the music while keeping the PG is fantastic. They do a great job of that. And I think too, it's it kind of, we talked about this a little bit with Elvis. We have this mythological view of a lot of our pop culture figures this kind of does the mythologizing of him. It takes him and kind of puts him on this pedestal while still showing, like, no, he's not, you know, a superhero. He's a man, and this is what he did to get to this point, and he worked hard, and he worked for all these people, and, you know, and not everything was always great, and, you know, and he almost sold out, and then he didn't, and then he did music for Despicable Me, and it's all very good. I think that had it been done as a standard documentary that we've seen a million times before, it would kind of fall into a forgettable kind of thing. I mean, arguably, I may not have even seen it. I mean, like, I wouldn't even say arguably. I would say this would have ended up as a streaming release that I probably wouldn't have watched. This is a movie that I ended up seeing because, they're doing something new and inventive. And I think that's kind of something that needs to be done. I'm not entirely sure they make the most use of Dolby, which is kind of what this screening's selling point was. Like, this is a Dolby screening that I went to, and, you know, I don't think they really went all in on making sure the sound mix is great, don't get me wrong, I'm not disparaging the sound mix. And I think one of the things that is interesting is the use of the way they mix in the archival footage. I like that. I don't think the archival footage is quite established to be archival footage in any way besides the audio, which can be a little bit confusing for viewers, I think. Like, why is all of a sudden the audio bad? And it's like, oh no, this is a tape recording from 20 years ago. Like, that's why it sounds so bad. But it's mixed in, and I don't think the video around it kind of does anything with that. I think the way they make use of the Legos is fantastic, and I think that using the Lego world, like, is a great way of being like, this is something so much more than just a standard. This is the story of this guy's life, which is what the movie by and large is. It elevates it in a way, and I don't think we get enough of that when it comes to the biopic, or the biographical documentary. And I think that, you know, this is something that, this is expensive, don't get me wrong. Like, I think this is an expensive way to do this, but we saw this with Flea, which was a movie that came out, 2 years ago at this point, that I really enjoyed, or I wouldn't say enjoyed, it's about the refugee who escapes from, I think it was Syria. Was it Syria or Pakistan? I don't remember, but he escapes from the Middle East and has to, you know, establish a new life after a terrible regime takes over, and it's a really interesting documentary of him telling this story while also dealing with his current life, and that's something that I do really, you know, I enjoyed the fact they used animation for that to kind of create the situation where it's like, we're going to recreate stuff we didn't have footage for. Here, by and large, they have a lot of footage for this stuff, but through the use of Lego and, you know, Lego by extension being animation, you do get the ability to make it bigger than it was, and not bigger and we're going to exaggerate to make it larger than life, but, like, yes, larger than life in more of a, you know, a standard kind of, like, you know, extravagance. Like, you know, Lego is the powerhouse of imagination. I think that's their slogan. If not, they can contact me and use it as their slogan. But, you know, Lego being that, you know, I feel like I've heard that somewhere. I definitely didn't just make that up. My copy is not that good. But Lego being what it is, that's, you know, a huge thing that they have the possibility, like, they could have done this. And I think that being one of the big focal points of this movie is kind of a big moment, and I think that they do such a great job of that here. Do I think that we're going to get too many more in terms of, you know, too many more like this? Probably not, which is disappointing, but also not at the same time. And I think the thing is, too, this is a really interesting way to pose this as a family-friendly movie, almost something where it's like, if this was a movie that, like, 20 years ago came out in the era of home media, this is something that I could see being a big hit on, like, DVD sales. But yeah, I think they did a really great job with it. I think the Lego world of it really elevates it. And I think that they don't shy away from making Pharrell look like not 100% perfect the entire time, which is a big thing for me when you have these. And it's a nice little walk down memory lane, because if you're someone like me who's been alive for most of the time he's been making music, a lot of this is, even if it's not music that you actively enjoyed your entire life, which for me was the case, like, a lot of it is, like, it does, what's it called, it is all background radiation. You've heard all this music before, and it's a nice little trip down memory lane in that regard. And I think the other thing that, there's one complaint I have, and it is, I did not go to this movie to be personally attacked, and yet I was. After they introduced Blurred Lines, which is a song that, was a little weird when it came out 12 years ago at this point, but after they do him working on Blurred Lines, and it goes to the next thing, and it's like, and here he was endorsing all of these, high-end fashion brands, and people in this sphere weren't doing that at the time, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Hearing someone refer to something that happened while I was in college as, at that time, it's like, you only ever hear that when, someone's doing something really trailblazing and different, and it's like, you don't really hear that in documentaries about things that have happened in your lifetime, and it's one of those things that's fuck, that makes me feel really old, and I wasn't really anticipating that here, but, goddamn. And I think they do a lot of really great things with the Lego, when they do the meeting with Snoop, there's the cloud of smoke, and then it pans over, and the guy's got the spray can, and he gets this PG spray on it to just spray it out to explain what the smoke is. And it's a really funny moment, because everyone knows everyone in that room is stoned right now, and that's when they're doing Drop It Like It's Hot. It's a really fun, there are a lot of really funny comedic little beats like that work really well, and it's making full use of anytime someone has some hyperbolic language, with the use of the Legos you can show that, and I think that does really make everything again pop a little bit more in a way that you don't normally see. But yeah, I would recommend this. I would very much recommend going to see Piece by Piece. It opens, I think it's opening limited this week, but I think it fully opens next week on the 11th. I think it's very much worth your time. I think it's a good family movie, which is one of the things where it's when you hear the songs that are in there, it's and the songs are being played in full, it's oh. But at the same time, it's these were radio hits, radio standards. That makes it sound really old. But, these were radio hits at the time they came out. These weren't songs that were oh, well, these are, deep cuts off these albums that are filthy. It's no, these are songs that were played on the radio. So, it's, it's very much, a nice way. I would recommend this movie. I would say this is a solid 5 out of 5 for me. And I don't think that this is going to, and let's game out what I think this is going to be. This movie has, I think, 3 Oscars that I think it is pretty solidly in contention for. I think it will make a strong case for Best Animated Feature. I think it'll make a strong case for Best Documentary Feature, and I think it'll make a strong case for Best Original Song. Now, I have not heard Lin-Manuel Miranda's songs for Mufasa. I have not heard any of the music for what's that other one that's coming out? For Moana. Those are the 2 other ones that I think are going to be the strong contenders for Best Original Song. What was the movie I just saw last week or 2 weeks ago? The Wild Robot. I don't think that had an original song. But and I'm sorry for my voice. I'm a little congested because what's it called? That is a great sign. I appreciate that. They're doing road work by me, and there's a sign they put up. I guess the highway department put it up, and it says funded by the bipartisan infrastructure law. And it's oh, good. So that is a very smart move. We're getting into election season. That is a good move, but a waste of my money as a taxpayer. But look, I would endorse seeing this movie. This is a strong, oh fuck me, this road is closed. This is a strong contender for a lot of the movies that are, I think Best Original Song, I don't want to say it's locked up. I don't want to say definitively that we're gonna have this win Best Original Song this year. But at the same time, I think you would be hard pressed to find a song that does more than Piece by Piece. And we'll see how that all plays out come March of next year, when it's Oscar time. And I think we'll check back in on a lot of this after Moana 2 and after, what was the other big one that I just mentioned, Mufasa. Which, let's be honest, here's what I think. When we get to the end of the year, this guy is an asshole. When we get to the end of the year, and we're looking at next year's, and we look at next year's Oscar race, what we're looking at is what is going to happen with Lin-Manuel Miranda. Let's be real about this. At the end of the day, that's the biggest question we have about the Academy Awards. He really wants that Oscar. Disney appears to be kind of setting him up for that Oscar. This is so poorly handled, it is almost appalling. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up here because I'm actually getting frustrated with this situation. So I'm just gonna wrap it up here because I'm getting really frustrated with this situation with this closed road. Because the police can't fucking handle traffic. I'm sorry, but what the fuck are we doing? There's clearly an accident here. Clearly an accident, and that's why the road is closed, headed past here. You have to turn, and that's what I'm here to turn. I'm in the turning lane, I'm here to turn. The issue is, there's no police guiding traffic, so it's just a clusterfuck. And I'm like, why the fuck is this like this? And on top of that, too, okay, it's a clusterfuck, fine, I get it, that's gonna be a problem that's gonna happen here, I get that, but the question I have is, why was it that you're not guiding people through for the full duration of the light? Why is it that we have to sit here while that road is closed and while people can't come the other way and we're just kind of sitting here now? It's so fucking stupid. I'm at a loss for words. But look, like I said, we'll see who wins Best Original Song. Until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.